what that could look like in the future when Democrats have control of the Senate?
Well, I will just say this. Every day that the Democrats force the shutdown to go on, every day that they deny payment to our great federal law enforcement, every day that they hold hostage needy families, the president's arguments about the filibuster get a lot more attractive. And I think what he's...
What the F does that mean? That is not the right answer. The reason to remove the filibuster is not this current government shutdown, because that tells me that all the Democrats have to do to avoid the Republicans removing the filibuster is agree to end the shutdown. All the real reasons to get rid of the filibuster exist whether the shutdown ends or not. The fact that the Democrats are going to delegitimize our electoral system, the fact that the Democrats are going to pack the Supreme Court, the fact that the Democrats are going to strip away all gun rights, the worst gun laws in any state. Look at Maryland, Massachusetts, California. That will be our national gun laws. The fact that they'll make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states. All these nightmare scenarios, all the Mamdani policies, everything will be free. Daycare, student lunches, public transport, housing. It's all going to be free. What does free mean? Free means you pay for it.
Based on what you said this morning, you don't really think the Democrats could never win the Senate again, right?
No, I think that if we got rid of the filibuster, we would approve so many good things, common sense things, wonderful things, that it would be hard to beat us. If we don't, it's always going to be a slog. So I do say this. I would say absolutely, without question, I have no doubt in my mind, get rid of it. And the Republicans should do it. But they have a number of Republicans that don't agree. And you know what? It's a question. Do I want to lose my relationship with those Republicans that have been very good to me for a long period of time, that voted against the crooked Democrats on impeachment and everything else? Do I want to lose them over it? I think it's a very important point. Do you ever have people that are wrong, but you can't convince them? So do you destroy your whole relationship with them or not? I'd be close to losing it, but probably not.
That's a very discouraging clip. That Trump's not willing to fight to the death to end the filibuster. A rebirth of America or America's demise. It is a time of choosing. So President Donald J. Trump is calling for an immediate end to the U.S. Senate practice of the filibuster, which is not in the Constitution. It's not a statute. It's just an internal Senate rule that generally requires 60 of the 100 senators to vote to pass legislation. This 60 vote requirement is allowing the minority of Democrat senators to block the MAGA agenda. They're the ones refusing to vote for the continuing resolution, which is why the government remains shut down. You don't have power in the Senate under the filibuster unless you have 60 votes. The Democrats, by the way, have long announced their own intention to end the filibuster to force their progressive fascist agenda down America's throat as soon as they, God forbid, return to power. So ending the filibuster is necessary to save our nation because the Democrats have made absolutely clear that they intend to eradicate America as a nation that our founders, or most of us, would recognize. They intend to go back to flooding the nation with tens or hundreds of millions of third worlders, making both Puerto Rico and Washington into states so they have 4 more Democrat senators, ending gun rights, of course, utterly destroying the integrity of the electoral system. You think it's bad now? And more. All to be done by a bare majority of Democrat votes. So it certainly seems as if, again, it's a time of choosing. We will either see a rebirth of America under the MAGA agenda, but only if the filibuster is ended, or we will inevitably watch our nation die. Because without ending the filibuster, Trump, MAGA, will simply not have 60 votes at any time in Trump's first term, which means virtually nothing will be able to be accomplished by MAGA to make America's lives better, which means at the midterms of the next presidential election, the American people would be susceptible to an argument that, well, you voted in Trump again and you didn't get anything better. Why not try the communists? Why not try Mamdani? Or the American version of Mamdani, the natural-born American version, Gavin Newsom. He'll tell you all kinds of pretty stories about how nice life will be for you.
If I thought that they weren't going to pass the filibuster, I wouldn't even bring it up. They're going to pass it within the first
He's talking about the Democrats.
hour. If they take power, and it's more likely that they take power if we don't do it, because we're not going to be passing any legislation. They're not going to approve anything. We're going to go 3.25 years. There won't be one bill that we're going to pass. Because the easiest thing to pass is exactly right now what they won't pass. And they'll do that, and they'll wreak havoc. But let's assume they get it. They're doing it anyway, so it wouldn't matter. They're doing it anyway. And, you know, I have a case where I have
He means the Democrats will be ending the filibuster anyway.
great U.S. attorneys that can't be approved because of the blue slips. The blue slips, I think you should terminate blue slips, too. It's a mental termination because it's really a custom.
I don't know how you reconcile those two videos. I don't know how you reconcile we're likely to lose because if we don't get anything done because we're blocked by the filibuster, and if we lose, they're going to end the filibuster anyway and shove everything down our throats. I don't know how you reconcile that with, well, I don't want to lose relationships over the filibuster. I have to admit, I just don't get it. Now, when he's talking about ending the filibuster, he gets a lot of support. Senator Ron Johnson. Trump is 100% correct. We know the Democrats will nuke the filibuster as soon as they're able to solidify their grip on power. We should act first in order to pass laws that benefit the American people. Another one, guide your capital. Trump is right, by the way. If Republicans don't end the filibuster, Democrats will simply do it themselves as soon as they return the power. They will pack the Supreme Court. The two Democrat senators who were blocking the Democrats from doing this last time, Manchin and Sinema, are both gone. They're out of the Senate. Here's AOC. Back in the day, not that long ago. The fact is, she writes, the Dems can act now to protect our democracy. Voting rights, that means delegitimize voting. No voting ID, nothing like that. No proof of citizenship to vote. The integrity of our courts, that means pack the Supreme Court. End minority rule, she was arguing to end the filibuster then. The Dem senators in the way need to get on board. The stakes are too high. We must end the filibuster, expand the court, stop dark money, whatever that means, and protect voting rights, meaning strip away all integrity of voting. My buddy Bill, Shipwreck Crew, says Trump is right about the filibuster. The only thing that stopped the Dems in 2020 to 2024 when they had a 50-50 Senate and Harris to break the tie was that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema would not go along. Those two are both gone. The Dems know their coalition is fracturing, with parts moving to the GOP. If they get the Senate back, although I don't see that happening in either 2026 or 28, they will end the filibuster because passing legislation to advance their progressive policies is the absolute number one purpose for them being in office. Respect for Senate traditions is somewhere in the 800 range of priorities. The Senate being a deliberative body that moves slowly and implements changes only over several election cycles that bring 60 votes under the tent is a relic of the past. The Democrats want the Senate to be just as majoritarian as the House, 50+1, and ram the policies through. Getting the legislation in place trumps all. Senate traditions are meaningless to the Democrats. Thinking the Democrats believe otherwise is wrong. Donald Trump, pass voter reform, pass voter ID, no mail-in ballots. If you do that, the Democrats will never be elected again. They can only win election by cheating. At least the Democrat Party, as currently constituted, the progressive fascist Democrat Party, save our Supreme Court from packing. Anyone looking forward to, they don't have to replace Clarence Thomas. They don't have to impeach Clarence Thomas. They don't have to wait for Clarence Thomas to retire and put a liberal in his seat. If the Supreme Court expands from 9 to 15, no two-state addition. Who wants Washington, D.C., that dump, and Puerto Rico as states? Terminate the filibuster. Publius, nuclear option strategy. If Republicans are to end the filibuster, they must use it to fund 12 separate appropriation bills and balance the budget, and also pass every single piece of the American First MAGA agenda, especially election integrity laws. Look, if we have voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote and the Democrats win, more power to them. That's the way it's supposed to work. The people who legitimately have the franchise are deciding. But we know that's not happening. We know that's not what's happening. We know these elections are all stolen. Using the filibuster to just fund a Biden continuing resolution with a $2 trillion deficit would be a self-inflicted wound Republicans would never recover from. Democrats will definitely use it as a justification, the lack of the filibuster in the future, to pass their open borders communist agenda. The Republicans today have to be the ones that end the filibuster. There are 47 vacancies in the federal courts. Nuke the filibuster, throw the Democrat, he says pink slips, he means blue slips, the ability of a liberal senator to block a conservative judge from being appointed. Throw Democrat blue slips in the trash bin. Only confirm judges who are to the right of Clarence Thomas. In fact, have prospective judges sit down for an interview with Clarence Thomas for his approval. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. No rule against that. My buddy Jack Posobiec says, rip off the Band-Aid, get rid of the filibuster before the Democrats do. They will. Look at this guy, Mamdani, just elected mayor of New York. What's he promising to do? Tax white communities more. You want that at the national level? You want that to be federal policy? Those of you who've had some success in life, fortunately, thanks to God, you have a little bit of retirement, you have some equity in your home. You think the progressive fascists aren't coming for that money to take it from you, their enemy, and give it to their friends? You think food stamps and SNAP and EBT and Section 8 housing are bad now? What happens when they can just print money again, like under Biden? Have we forgotten? Have we forgotten what they did? Why is the cost of living so high today? When they were amateurs, they were doing this. When they were hardly trying, they were doing that. Does anybody remember? We got another graph, a reminder graph for everybody. Does everybody remember this? You think that purple peak won't be 10 times higher? You think if they were bringing in 10 million third world illegal migrants under Biden, they won't bring in 100 million a year? Why wouldn't they? Do you know, by the way, in the U.S. Constitution, there's not a word about only citizens can vote? Did you know that? There's a federal statute that says that, which can be repealed by a mere majority in Congress once the Democrats get rid of the filibuster. Now, the concept that only citizens can vote is inherent to having a republic. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, the people of the United States, they're the ones that should vote. We all understand that. But it doesn't say that. It's just presumed to be the case. Today's Supreme Court would recognize that. You think a 15-justice Supreme Court packed by the Democrats would agree to that? You know that in these blue cities, they let non-citizens vote at the local level, right? So they would go beyond just turning a blind eye to illegals voting. They would just make it lawful. What do you think the third world is going to do with your hard-earned resources? What do you think they're going to do? And then I see things like this. Josh Hawley. People ask me why I think Josh Hawley is a bag. Someday I'll have to do a whole show on it. But it's because of things like this.
Senator, you did signal today that you would be open to the idea of doing what President Trump has asked, and that is doing away with the filibuster. Well, obviously, that would be advantageous right now to reopen the government. Any concerns at all about...
Yay, Josh Hawley! He's for doing away with the filibuster. What a great guy.
What that could look like in the future when Democrats have control of the Senate?
Well, I will just say this. Every day that the Democrats force the shutdown to go on, every day that they deny payment to our great federal law enforcement, every day that they hold hostage needy families, the president's arguments about the filibuster get a lot more attractive. And I think what he's...
What the F does that mean? That is not the right answer. The reason to remove the filibuster is not this current government shutdown, because that tells me that all the Democrats have to do to avoid the Republicans removing the filibuster is agree to end the shutdown. All the real reasons to get rid of the filibuster exist whether the shutdown ends or not. The fact that the Democrats are going to delegitimize our electoral system, the fact that the Democrats are going to pack the Supreme Court, the fact that the Democrats are going to strip away all gun rights, the worst gun laws in any state. Look at Maryland, Massachusetts, California. That will be our national gun laws. The fact that they'll make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states. All these nightmare scenarios, all the Mamdani policies, everything will be free. Daycare, student lunches, public transport, housing. It's all going to be free. What does free mean? Free means you pay for it. Why do you think healthcare is so costly? It's not because you're consuming a ton of healthcare. None of you are consuming $3,000 a month of healthcare, which you don't even get in benefits until you hit a $10,000 deductible. You know this. All that money you're paying is being spent on other people, being spent on the people who are not paying for healthcare, our own multi-generational poor, tens of millions of illegal migrant invaders. That's what will happen. The reason to end the filibuster right now is to be able to pass laws to prevent that from happening, not to end the shutdown. You don't. I swear to God, you can put a suit on this guy, but his IQ can't be above 100. Anyway, I said all that back to Josh Hawley in a response. Senator Ron Johnson says he wasn't sold on terminating the filibuster before meeting with Trump today, but now he's fully on board. We better beat the Democrats to the punch and act while we can to pass legislation for the benefit of the American people. Yeah, how about we do that? How about we do that? Wesley Hunt, representative out of Texas. President Trump has been crystal clear repeatedly that eliminating the filibuster is essential, not for partisan gain, but so we can do what Democrats refuse to do: reopen the government responsibly and finally codify the MAGA, America First, America for Americans agenda into law. We won the White House, held the House majority, won the Senate because of MAGA, because of President Trump's bold, decisive leadership and his vision for America's future. The voters delivered a mandate. We did what Obama mocked us about when he was president, when he was shoving Obamacare down our throats, the train wreck that is the Affordable Care Act. You know what he told us when Republicans objected? The Obamacare that passed without a single Republican vote on Christmas Eve? He said, if you don't like it, he looked us right in the eye. If you don't like it, go win an election. All right, MFer, we'll do that. We've done it. And now these feckless, not the MAGA, but the feckless Republicans, the cucks, the ones happy to be the losers, happy losers, the loyal opposition, not responsible for anything. As Wesley Hunt says, the voters did not elect us to manage the status quo. They elected us to transform it. You know, we only need to rewind the clock on America like 40 years. 100 years would be better, but 40 years would be plenty. 1980 America would be great. 90% actual white cultural social Americans. Nearly 1 year into President Trump's second term, the United States Senate is still moving at a glacial pace. And the progressive fascists, they're just doing a delay game. It's not just in the courts. They know that if they can wait out Trump, they're back. They're back. If they can wait out Trump before he can enact the MAGA agenda, they're back. They had a knife to their metaphorical throat, YouTube, metaphorical throat, and they clutched success out of the jaws of defeat because the Republicans are feckless. John Cornyn in the Senate has spent a king's ransom on TV because he's a Texas senator. He's has competition from Ken Paxton, I believe, for that U.S. Senate seat. John Cornyn has spent a king's ransom on TV insisting he stands with Trump 99% of the time. If that's true, one simple question: is this issue, the filibuster, the 1% where he abandons President Trump? Wesley Hunt, I guess, is running too. As your senator, I would support eliminating the filibuster because when the American people send us to Washington with full control of the government, we have a responsibility to use it. John Thune, every day Democrats drag this out. People are working longer and longer without pay. Our skies get less safe. Critical government functions are not being performed. All of this will end when just 5 Senate Democrats support the bill that's sitting at the desk. You don't need 5 Senate Democrats if you end the filibuster, as Congressman Greg Stube notes. Or you kill the filibuster like real Donald Trump, myself, and other elected Republicans, he puts a lowercase r here, I don't know if that's on purpose, have called on you to do. End the shutdown. Do what the American people elected you to do. Govern a Republican majority. They didn't elect Democrats to govern. They elected Republicans. I would say I elected MAGA. There's a difference. We've had Republicans my entire political life, and they've done jack shit for us. Only MAGA has genuinely fought for America.